Hello, and welcome to It's an Artful Life. I'm your host, Jillian Rhodes. This project started with a question: do the arts matter anymore? I decided to start asking people that very question and came up with this project, an experiment on how and if people see and experience the arts in their daily lives. Is it an artful life? Let's find out. Welcome back to It's an Artful Life. Today, I'm kicking off season 2 with perhaps one of my favorite interviews to date. Angel Vigil was one of my circus teachers when I was a teenager and now has over 4 decades as a successful artist behind him. I asked him a few of my standard questions, but mostly I just sat back and listened to him doing what he does best: tell stories. Like the name of his upcoming memoir, Angel tells me about the perilous journey of a little brown boy. The first things first, can you just introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Angel Vigil. I'm talking to you from Denver, Colorado, and I've been fortunate in my life to have spent my adult life living and earning a living and working as an artist, and that's been a huge fulfillment to me now that I look back at decades of this. I've been a working artist for 45 years now, and now I feel blessed by that worked out for me.
Okay, where are you from originally?
I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a boy of the West, and I grew up in the West. And then a lot of my formative years as an artist when I was younger was the bohemian lifestyle. I'm kind of like you. I went to live in Paris for a year, studied there. Then I danced with the Kansas City Ballet, danced with pickup companies in around the New England area. Was very active in miscellaneous circus activities in the New England area. And when was doing fine, just doing fine, working steady, kind of like what you're doing now with a community of like-minded young artists trying to not only be an artist, because we already were artists, but to make work, to make artistic work that we could share with others and do with others. And then I just decided, it sounds superficial, I wanted to see the sun on a more regular basis. I'm a boy from the West. I was used to seeing the sun every day. I'm used to extremely long vistas where a glance of mine, I could see 100 to 200 miles to the horizon. And I said, I need to return to my roots, the West. And then so I came home is what I did. And then the reason I came home is the Denver Center Theater Company had just opened up, and they were an equity theater house. And I felt I could come to Denver and find work really easily as them as an anchor. So I was a member of their company for a while, and then they actually produced in their playwright series 2 of my plays, and one of them was their school tour one year. So very quickly I got my feet on the ground, met a community of artists, and then got involved with Council on the Arts here and was the most employed artist during that time doing schoolwork, residencies in schools. So just one, you know how it is. One thing leads to another.
Yeah. Yeah, but how did you get involved in the arts in the first place? Like what drove you to the arts as a kid?
You know, I'm busy writing my just kind of a memoir. I like to write. I've written 6 books. So I've written these books. And then so one of the books I'm writing now is called The Perilous Journey of a Little Brown Boy. And it's my journey as a person of color, little brown boy that I'm positive when I was growing up, no one would ever think I'd amount to anything, because why would I, considering where I was coming from? And then so to have more or less amounted to anything has been a perilous journey for me in American culture, for a person of color, especially a little boy coming up. And then a real value in my family has always been education. And then so I got schooled up. I got learned up. Simple as that. Went to college, graduated from college, was working on a PhD in psychology at the Claremont Graduate School. And then my father died, And then I had to come back home, basically, is what happened. And it's not like I was some magic worker for the family, but I came home after the death of my father, never returned to graduate school. And then because I was in psychology, I got a job established in Kansas City, Missouri, a drug rehabilitation center called the Phoenix Center. And then I call her a girl, even though at the time she was 19 years old, so I guess she's a girl. But a young woman comes in to do volunteer work, Sandy Tedeschi. And I've written a chapter about her in my memoir, Sandy Tedeschi. Everything I am stems from her. And I told my own daughters, I said, what I really hope for you is that you run into good people at the right time in your life and you're open to them and their influence on you is good, because she was a artistic spirit. She was in, so we're talking now, I got to do the math here all of a sudden, easily 48 years ago. So you got to imagine American culture 48 years ago. She was into yoga, Kundalini yoga, when the only people into yoga were weird people. Nowadays, everywhere you stumble upon a yoga studio and someone walking with their yoga mat. She was into health foods when there was only one health food store in all of Kansas City, and when you walked in there, it smelled weird. She was into recycling when the only thing you could recycle was tin cans, and you had to take the label off yourself, drive 25 miles outside of town to the only recycling center. She was into writing poetry and everything. And I was like an academic. I was a counselor. I was totally into something else. So then what happens is she was influential to me in my spirit. She always was telling me, you're an artist, you could be an artist, you should be an artist, live the artist life. And then so I was taking her, the boyfriend taking the girlfriend, to her dance classes at the Kansas City Ballet. And then I'm sitting outside of just waiting, literally the boyfriend waiting for the girlfriend to get out of dance class. I'm sitting on the benches out there. At the same time, I had already gotten a black belt in Shotokan karate. And then so I'd already, to a degree, had mastered physical movement in three-dimensional space. When you go to the black belt, you do these katas, and they are these dance-like forms where you practice all your moves. And at the beginning, you do them real fast, but at the end, as you're moving up the belts, you start doing them slower and slower and slower. So at the top level, you do them really slowly. They're meditative exercise. They're no longer physical exercise. And then, so later I actually turned all these katas into a dance piece to the music of Yusef Lateef, and he was a jazz flutist. So what happened is the founder, in fact, she's legendary. The founder of the Kansas City Ballet was this woman named Titania Dokudowska. And I've actually considered myself through line of the blue bloodline of ballet back to Diaghilev and Nijinsky and the Ballet Russes. And the reason is Diaghilev later established the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. And then Titania Dokudowska, Russian, of course, she went to the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. So she's directly connected to Diaghilev and Nijinsky and Ballet Russe. Somehow, now I wish I could talk to her. She ends up in Kansas City, starts this ballet company in Kansas City. She comes out. She's been seeing me there for weeks, just sitting out there. She looks at me. You're going to be a dancer. I'm giving you a scholarship. Starting tomorrow, you're taking dance classes.
Wow.
1 year later, I was a member of the company and in the Nutcracker. That was my debut in the dance world, in the Nutcracker. And my memories of Tanya Dokudowska, she didn't use an accompanist, a piano accompanist in class. She would, with her stick, keep the time with a stick. And then she would come up and would hit you with a stick if something was wrong. And she was extremely severe with her criticisms. And everyone just said, it's the Russian way. You can't take it personal. It's just the Russian way. And then I was on scholarship. And then back in those days, even like now, a boy who even wants to do this is like solid gold. Every dance company I was in, there was not one single guy as good as the worst woman in the company. And oh, why I was in dance companies. In my youth, I was good looking. I could run around on stage on time to the music, and I could pick up girls and not drop them. That was all that was required in those days. So, and then it just rolled. It just rolled with that. I ended up quitting my job. I was an academic advisor at the University of Kansas City, University of Missouri, Kansas City. Quit that. Literally went to Paris. Went to Paris and decided, because talking to Tanya Dokodowska, she had said, well, you need to go to Europe right away. You need more training and you need the European spirit and everything if you really want to be an artist. Literally packed my bags, went over there, and went over there 2 times, ended up living a total of a year in France, studying ballet and the miscellaneous theater arts. And then when I returned from that, then my mind had already changed and I already saw myself as an artist. And then just started kind of like what you've been doing with your work recently, going to interesting places and working with interesting people until literally decades are over. And now I'm an established artist with my own career. Simple as that. AngelVigil.com. Go at it and check it out.
I will certainly link it for sure when I publish this interview. So you have such a long career that this might be a really tough question. But do you have a particularly memorable experience of the arts? Some moment that particularly kind of stands out? I'm sure that there's many.
There's so many, but I'll give you 2 of them.
Okay.
One of them, the first time I saw Pilabeles.
Okay.
The modern dance company. And I ended up actually working with the offshoot of Pilabeles because their manager started another company called the Phoenix Dance Company. It was kind of like a mime dance theater company. And then he hired me to do some work, and I ended up getting a really nice comment in a review from Anna Kisselgoff in 1977. And at that time, Anna Kisselgoff was like Clive Barnes in theater. She could make and break careers with a stroke of her pen. So she mentioned me that I did a good job in my part. And another girlfriend of mine who was an opera singer got furious at me because, in a good natured way, but I could tell she was still pissed off. She got furious at me because I got a mention in the New York Times before she did. So, but I remember the first time seeing them, just because I'd never imagined dance being like that. Just never imagined that it could be. Because I've been coming from ballet, modern, and jazz, and the traditional dance forms. So I had never imagined that you could do something different. And Martha Clark was one of the dancers with that company. And then she later went on and started her own little company, again, kind of like a mime dance theater company. And I saw her doing this dance piece in a Pierrot costume, the big baggy Pierrot costume with the 3 black buttons. And it was a silent kind of mime dance piece. And at the end of it, she had the long sleeves that are traditional in the Pierrot costume. And she pulled the sleeves together as if the curtains were closing at the end of a piece in the theater. So in addition to movement, just the poetry of the image really sparked me that that's the direction I want to go. That's the type of art I want to make. And then a second time where my mind was just blown because I never imagined it was the Moscow circus. Seeing the Moscow, and as you know, I've been involved in the circus for 4 decades now too, both as a teacher and a performer. But seeing the Moscow circus, and they were doing the flying trapeze. And all of a sudden, people, instead of doing what they usually do in the flying trapeze, which is literally self-catapult from one bar, one person to another, they just fell off of the bar. And you feel the whole audience is like someone's going to die. That's what's going to happen here. Someone's going to die. And they went down and they hit the net and they bounced back up. And all the time they'd been rigged onto bungee cords. So they bungee, so they're falling. And there was a piece about something about Russian Soviet history, one of the wars. And they were falling like falling angels, but they'd hit the net and then bungee back up to the bar and then continue their back and forth, and they'd fall and come back up. So I remember just being awestruck in a way that I was dumbfounded. I had never imagined that you could do something else besides just fly back and forth, but that you could fall and come back up inside of a trapeze act. And so that's another time where I was just clearly, I cannot believe that you could do something different, just as far as your imagination could open up, and you could actually break whatever barriers or boundaries existed around the art form to make something theatrical in a way that would take the imagination to a place it didn't even know it could imagine. So those are two really clear moments that I remember myself thinking, you know what, it's not imagine of going deeper, it's imagine of, because artists always say, I got to dig deeper, I got to find, I got to go down. And no, it's imagine of flying higher. Just this imagination can be so unbounded, but you need to have artists, you need to witness that. And that's why I think it's important to go see art, hang out with artists, show your art, watch other people's arts, because to witness other people making art can be so thrilling, so thrilling. And I don't view it as well, I've been challenged to make my art better. It just makes me love people. So those have been, for me, truly inspirational moments, not so much about art, but about the greatness of the human spirit and the human soul, and how high it can go, and how it can go to such beautifully unexpected places, and how an artist on that journey can then share that with other human beings. That's like the gift of art. That's the gift of being an artist.
Yeah, so you know, because you have such a rich experience with the arts as an artist and sharing with artists, but what about, I want to ask you about kind of the daily experience of art, you know, kind of, you have it on a daily basis because you're working in it as part of your whole career. But what do you think, you know, is there art just on a daily basis, just, you know, walking in the city, or, you know, going to work, you know, that kind of daily experience of art? Do you think that exists?
You know, what I want to say, and it's not even art, there's beauty and poetry in the world every day, but you have to be open and aware of that, because I think the daily grind blocks you from that. You got to get up, you got to get your food, you got to make your money, you got to get to work, you got to go do this, you got to do that, you got to have some social time and everything. And I think that brings the spirit down to a smaller place, just the dailiness of life. And it's not like lead lives of quiet desperation, that literary reference, you know, because I think that's too negative. But I think our lives can be too humdrum just with the dailiness of it. And then when you look for art, it's not so much that I got to walk by and am I looking for the traditional in art? Of course, I see imagery all the time. Movies, the great art form of our era. Go to movies all the time. Talk to artists all the time. I see other people's work. I go to art galleries all the time, you know. So my life has art in it all the time. But as far as the dailiness of it and running into art, what I have tried to, travel gives you the awareness of, whoa, life, big, cool, new, different, whoa, life, big, cool, different, exciting. But that's travel for you, because you've left your comfort zone. And then you come back to your everyday, and it doesn't feel like that. It just doesn't. But how, and we've called it beginner's mind. So how do you keep beginner's mind and beginner's spirit when you have to actually take that on as a deliberate aspect of yourself, that you will go around, see artistic beauty in people, see artistic expression in people, uh, see people doing artistic things. They're not dancing, they're not painting, they're not playing an instrument in anything, but the way they're engaged in life. One of the things I have totally loved, believe it or not, I ride the bus back and forth to work quite a bit, where I'm at going to bus now and everything. Here's an example of this. There's a guy, a young guy, he's got to be in his 20s, I would imagine, on the corner. And I don't think he's homeless, but he's definitely on the corner trying to get some money from cars that come by and everything. And he's got to be a raver. And what I mean by that is his gig on the corner is the hula hoop. And I've been to these things where people are doing the poi, and they're doing the poi all crazy, or they're doing the devil stick all crazy, or they're doing the hula hoop all crazy. So they take in miscellaneous, smaller art skills from the circus, and they turn it into rave skills and rave happenings. And I've seen that all over the place. And this guy in the corner, I see him like twice a week. He's out there throwing the hula hoop, and it's not just hula hoop like you do when you're a kid around your waist. He's learned how to do it across his shoulders, learn how to spin it above his head, roll it through his shoulders, back around like that, bring it around, put it on the ground. He's definitely has his little routine down. So occasionally I'll run into flashes of people doing their art thing. And then very common with kind of street people, they got their earbuds in and they're just dancing to some interior picture. And then you can walk by them and say, well, there's another crazy in the head street person, right? But I like to walk by and say, that's art. That's what art looks like on the street, right? When you intersect an open, free spirit on the street, that's what art can look like. But that's not common. That's not common. I find it something I find myself having to say, be open, be aware, pay attention, have beginner's mind, notice, be looking for it actually. Because if I don't do that, I'll just be going to work, and that's all that will happen is going to work.
So actually experiencing the arts on a daily basis is a conscious choice. It has to be a conscious choice.
You have to be on the lookout for it. It has to be on the lookout for it because regular life doesn't leave space for that. And people that walk around like that, they're weirdos, or that's why these homeless or street people can do that. They're already off the grid. So it doesn't matter what they're not trying to uphold anything, So they're off the grid, so they can kind of be how they want to be in an open, free way. Everyone else is too task-oriented, coming and going from A to B.
Okay, if we could kind of insert more daily art into the world, how do you think that would change things?
Happier people. And I'm a teacher, so I do a lot of teaching, and that puts me in front of people, both adults and kids, on a very regular basis. And two things have happened. The longer I've been an artist, when I teach, the less I teach. And the reason is I want to get out of the way of people's learning. And so in the past, I would overwhelm them with my knowledge and my expertise and everything I know, and do this, learn this, do it like this and everything. And then what happened was I was teaching a film class. And I was like the director of the film program at my school for 5 years. So I was teaching a film class to high school kids. And I was unsatisfied with the films that were coming back. And it finally dawned on me, well, that's because you're teaching them too much. And I deliberately stopped teaching them so much. And it wasn't as simple as I just gave them the camera and said, go out and film something and bring something back in a week. I want 10 minutes of edited film. But once I headed more in that direction, the films got better. Because they were less bound by, I got to do it like this, I got to do that, And I said, I just want you to make some movies. I just want you to make some movies and make whatever you want. I don't even care. If it's not good enough, then I'll tell you as your teacher, and we'll talk about that back and forth. It's something your parents or the school administration shouldn't see, then we'll only look at it in class. Okay, that's all we'll do. Stay right here. You make whatever you want to do. And then, analogous to that, when I jump to, and I'm telling people now, and saying, my new thing has been this, and it's something I've taken on for myself. The real art you're making is yourself. And then, so when you said what would happen if there's more art, if the real art people was making was themselves, then I think it'd be happier people. And I don't even jump that to the larger meta scale of a happier world. I think if people were more self-expressive, felt more free, were less constrained by all the boundaries of the culture or society that we live in. I think if people were more freely expressive of their emotional world and not the fear of consequence or image or how's it going to be perceived, I think people would be more spontaneously creative. And I know the business world, the number one quality they're looking for in their employees is creativity. And creativity cannot be bound by self-judgment. And then so the artist's journey can model that for people. And so that's what, when you say, what would I like to see? I'd like to see more free people, more free expressiveness, more free emotions, more people being more aware that the life I'm living is my art. That's the life I'm sharing with the world. And then I think it'd be happier people. In fact, I know it would be.
It's a cool way of looking at it. Yeah, so I really just have one question left, and you've kind of already answered it. But what does an artful life look like?
Artful life, I would want my artful life to be one where I'm spontaneously open to other people and I engage with them in a way that I can truly see who they are, and I'm sharing of myself in a really good way. And in that way, we can spark a relationship that has energy and excitement and activity that's positive. And out of that will come something, right? It might not be a painting. It might not be a dance. It might not be a circus act. It might not be a book. But out of that will come something that will deepen our relationship and will deepen what we get from each other when we share time and activity and space together. And if my being a more open and positive and artistic person can make my exchanges with people better, then I've accomplished a great deal. One of the things I've been doing, one of my early teachers was a woman named Mamako Yoniyama. And she was from Japan. And she did this art form called Zen Mime. And then, so she taught me a piece about the fishermen. And I do it in my, it's called The Pond. I do it in my shows every now and then. And I use some music from Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals, and it's the Swan. I think it's either Swan or the Aquarium, one of the other ones. But one of those two. And then so I do this piece, and it's all beautiful, and it's meditative, and it's dance performance. And then she was another teacher who was like Tanya Dokudoska, who was very instrumental with me when I was just starting out, not only learning technique and stuff, but really artist spirit. You know, how do you live in life as an artist? And you have all these things as an artist you can do and make, but if your spirit's not good, your art's not going to be any good. You're not going to make beautiful art. So she had this piece called The 10 Bulls. And I remember the 10 Bulls. And the 10 Bulls is a Buddhist philosophy. And it has 10 stages. And catching the bull is reaching enlightenment. That's the image of if you catch the bull, you've reached enlightenment. And then Cat Stevens was this very successful singer-songwriter. And later, he became Muslim and changed his name and all that and everything, you know. But during the day, Cat Stevens was a very, very, very successful musician. And he brought out one of his most successful albums was called Cat's Bull at 4. And you can go, you do the 10 Bulls and Google it up. And there's poems that go with it, but there's also traditional imagery that goes with each of the stages. And Cat's Bull at 4 Cat Stevens brought out that album. And on the journey, and Mama Koyoniyama had taught me these 10 little dance mime pieces to go with it. Zen mimes, she called them. You catch bull at 4, meaning you have 10 stages to go through, and you're actually reach enlightenment before you're even halfway done. And her whole thing is, enlightenment, understanding the world, that's easy. You can do that pretty quickly. And according to the 10 Bulls journey, you do catch bull at 4. And this is kind of like what I learned when I was doing my martial arts study too. In fact, at the end, my sensei, my master said, I could have given you the black belt on day 1. It was clear you had this down and you're going to learn it really fast. But you can throw that black belt away because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Because the real journey is your spiritual journey the rest of your life. Not that you can knock someone out or defend yourself. That's like tricks. The real journey is your spiritual journey. So in the 10 Bulls, it's very similar. You reach enlightenment at stage 4. The real journey is what you do with enlightenment the rest of your life. Stages 5, 6, 7, and 8 are basically you being a jerk. The reason is, I'm enlightened, look at me, I'm above you, I've seen the mystery of life, I understand, out of my way, throw rose petals at my feet, So stages 5, 6, 7, and 8 are you basically being a jerk with it. Because even though you've caught the bull, you have to tame it. And so the image is what you really have to tame is your own spiritual journey. And then so now that I'm later in my life, I've dedicated myself to reaching the 10th stage. I actually think I caught the bull in my 20s, to be honest with you, because it was easy to catch. I became an artist. I found a life journey. I found purpose and meaning in my work. I know I created good art. I became a teacher of other people. You've seen me model that. I've been successful with that. But the personal interior journey, the 10th stage of this 10-stage journey is to return to the village as the fool. No one sees that you caught the bull. No one sees that you're enlightened. They think you're the fool. And it's very similar to the fool in Shakespeare's plays. The fool in almost all of Shakespeare's plays, when the fool appears, is the only person seeing the truth and speaking the truth. And that's a real medieval image of the fool in society. So in this Buddhist philosophy, the cat's bull. And then stage 10, you return to the village as the fool. And then that leaps back to retrograde now to my earlier idea, what you asked me, what does being an artist look like? Being an artist looks like no one knows you're an artist. They just know they've encountered a wonderful spirit that has made their spirit more full and better. So that's the end of the artist journey for me. I hope I can accomplish it. I still have some more to go. I know I can make good art, but is my spirit the artist spirit in the world? That's the true journey.
Wow. Amazing. What an incredible story. I don't actually have any more questions for you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's an Artful Life will return next week with another interview. Thanks for listening.